Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Teamwork Ancestry Guide. I've been talking about versatile heritages, and today is no different. If you like what you see, don't forget to like, subscribe, ding the bell, and make sure you check out the links in the description below, especially if you want to donate to the Ukrainians. Let's dive in. So today we're talking about the Oread. Taking the Oread heritage means you are a humanoid creature that can trace their ancestry to the elemental plane of Earth. So one of your ancestors was probably either a Shaitan, which is an Earth elemental genie, or even better, a crystal dragon. This obviously means that Oreads can be incredibly diverse. As an Oread, you might have specific ties to certain types of Earth, such as sand, gems, or even mud. Oreads tend to be very stoic, steadfast, and dependable, but also very mysterious. This inherent mystery tends to reveal new facets, ones that the Oread themselves may not even be aware of. Oreads can be identified relatively easily. Their skin color can range from anywhere from gray to brown to resembling metals or precious gems. Oreads also generally have rocks or crystals growing out of their head instead of hair. Regardless, most Oreads do try to sculpt these features into something resembling hair. But even if an Oread were to hide the features I have discussed so far, they would still be relatively identifiable thanks to their shimmering gemstone eyes. Otherwise, Oreads generally look like their base ancestry. Mechanically, taking the Oread heritage gives you low light vision if your ancestry didn't already have it. If your ancestry already had low light vision, then this heritage gives you dark vision. You also gain the Oread traits and the ability to take Oread feats in addition to those of your ancestry. Our first ancestry feat is also our first lineage. Taking Dust Soul gets you trained proficiency in survival, or another skill if you're already trained. Also, you can sustain yourself with dirt and ash instead of normal food and water, because you are literally part sand. This one is great if your GM is one that actually makes you keep track of food and water. This essentially means that your party never has to buy food and water for you. You can literally just pick up a handful of dirt from anywhere, eat it, and you're good. Elemental Eyes is the only way that Oreads get dark vision if they don't get it from the heritage. But it's also one of those feats that you gotta take at first level, and after that, you're kinda stuck with it. So there's that, but dark vision is always good to have. Anyway, next up is Elemental Lore. Like Elemental Eyes, this one is available to all geniekin. You become trained in survival, and your choice of Arcana or Nature, or something else if you're already trained in survival. You also become trained in a lore skill associated with your plane of origin. For this heritage, that's the plane of Earth. This is just the lore skill that every ancestry or versatile heritage has access to. Pretty basic. Next up is Elemental Trade. Taking this feat gives you trained proficiency in crafting, or another skill if you're already trained in it. In addition, you also gain the specialty crafting feats for both stonemasonry and blacksmithing. This feat is kind of situational. If you're playing through Age of Ashes, or you want to be the guy that just makes weapons for the party, this is a good feat to take. Otherwise, you're probably better off picking something else. Now we've got our second lineage, Gem Soul. You are literally part gem, which inspires you to be flashy. You gain trained proficiency in performance, or another skill if you're already trained in it. You also gain the impressive performance skill feats. If you want to use performance to earn income instead of a lore skill, but you're not a bard, this might be the lineage for you. Our weapon familiarity feat gives us trained proficiency in falchions, ranciers, scimitars, and tridents. We also gain access to all uncommon geniekin weapons, which of course, if we're a magus, gets us that sweet, sweet wishblade. And of course, martial geniekin weapons are considered simple weapons for us, and advanced geniekin weapons are considered martial weapons for us. Pretty basic weapon familiarity feats. Mire Soul Oreads are part mud. They gain trained proficiency in acrobatics, or something else if they're already trained in it. They can also turn part of their body into mud, which mechanically gives them the quick squeeze skill feat. Another pretty simple lineage feat. And then we come to Study on Stone. This one is pretty much the exact same as the Rock Runner Dwarf Ancestry feat. You can ignore difficult terrain caused by rubble or made of stone and earth. Also, if you roll an acrobatics check to balance on these types of surfaces, you aren't flat-footed, and if you roll a success, you get a critical success instead. Situational, but can be good if you're running into a lot of that type of thing. Alright, for 5th level, we're going to start with my personal favorite Oread feat, Fortify Shields. Once per day, for one action, you can raise your shields. If you do this and use shield block before the end of your next turn, then your shield gains hardness equal to your character level. This feat only applies to that particular shield block, and only when determining how much damage your shield blocks. This feat right here is one of the reasons why Oreads are such good tanks. This is a great teamwork option with a feat like Shield Warden. It's only a once per day thing, but it's still very, very good. Next is Genie Weapon Flourish. This just gives us the critical specialization effects of all weapons covered in Genie Weapon Familiarity. Pretty basic. Then we've got another feat that all Genie can have access to, Skillful Tail. We have a tail that we can use to perform simple interact actions. We can use it to perform actions such as opening an unlocked door, but we can't use it for anything that requires manual dexterity or a check to accomplish. We also can't hold objects with it. This is useful for that situation where the door is unlocked, but it might be trapped. I'm sure there are other uses for this feat, but in combat, not that useful. Treacherous Earth is another good feat for tanks. Once every 10 minutes for one action, we can create a 5-foot burst of difficult terrain centered on one corner of our space. Using this feat right effectively means that if enemies want to get past you without being slowed down, they have to go a certain direction. Like, say, right past the fighter. It isn't as good as the Divine Wall Champion feat, but if you're a tank and not a champion, this is a great feat to take. Okay, there's only 2 9th level feats for Oread, and one of them is Earth Sense. Tremor Sense has an imprecise sense with a range of 30 feet. That's what this feat gives you. If you want Tremor Sense, this is the feat you take. This is the feat that gives you the Tremor Sense with the most range, other than one other feat. However, that feat only gives you Tremor Sense with more range in certain situations. This feat gives you the most range all the time. Any imprecise sense is always good, but Tremor Sense is the best one. If an enemy is on the ground, you will pretty much always know when something is coming. Whereas with Scent, there are ways to cover your scent. Granted, Tremor Sense doesn't work against flying creatures, but that's pretty much it. And then we have Shaitan Magic. Glitter Dust and Resist Energy as Arcane Innate spells at 2nd level. That's what this feat gives you. I really wish these 2 feats weren't the same level. Glitter Dust plus Tremor Sense would be amazing. Yes, Tremor Sense is an imprecise sense. But if you've got an invisible creature, then you should be able to figure out where they are within a 10-foot burst. Once you do that, you can cast Glitter Dust to figure out exactly where they are. And Resist Energy will be good for teamwork in certain situations, especially if you're running into a lot of energy damage. Alright, we've got a few 13th level feats to cover before we get into the 17th level feat, so we might as well get started. Genie Weapon Expertise keeps our Genie weapons on par with our other weapons. So, if you're a class that doesn't get martial weapons, but you really want to use that falchion, boom, there you go. With Metal Vein Strikes, you select either Cold Iron or Silver, and your unarmed attacks count as that. Great for anyone with an unarmed attack, but especially those Animal Instinct Barbarians and those unarmed fighters. Taking advantage of weaknesses like those of the werewolf and the gremlins we're facing right now in my Strength of Thousands game is very, very cool. It's too bad you only get one of these, but hey, taking advantage of enemy weaknesses, always good. One with Earth gives you a 15-foot burrow speed. This is great for any rogue that wants to sneak up on enemies, especially if you can burrow before the combat begins. Just burrow beneath the earth, enemies have no idea where you're going to come up, so sneak attack. Next up is Shaitan Skin. This gives you Stone Skin as a 4th level Arcane Innate 3 times per day. Another great option for tanks. That's just flat out resistance 5 to physical, except adamantine, for 20 minutes, 3 times per day. That's definitely multiple encounters if you're in a dungeon. It may only be resistance 5, but that can be enough. Summon Earth Elemental allows you to do exactly that. Summon an Earth Elemental. Once per day you can cast Summon Elemental as a 5th level Primal Innate. But you can only summon Earth Elementals with this spell. Unfortunately, this feat isn't that useful. I mean, yeah, it's always great to have big thing that enemies want to attack instead of party, but at the same time, at 13th level, a level 5 creature isn't going to last very long. Especially not against boss fights. This feat can be good in certain situations, but it's pretty limiting and situational. And the only 17th level feat for Oreads is also pretty situational. Stone Form gives you Elemental Form as a once per day 7th level Primal Innate, but you can only choose the Earth Elemental form. This one has the same problems as Summon Earth Elemental does. Yeah, it's great to have big thing that enemies want to attack instead of party. And this one is a little bit better because you can cast it at the full 7th level. However, there are ways to get enemies to attack you and not your party members other than just being giant Earth Elemental. But I digress. But what do you guys think? Have you played an Oread yet? I would love to hear about your guys' characters down in the comments. Remember, teamwork is vital, and I'll see you guys next time.